President Buhari approves the establishment of a national center for the control of small arms and light weapons.
Troops of new Operation Hardim Kai repel Boko Haram attempt to infiltrate Ran in Borno State.
National Council on Lands resolves on review of interest rates for mortgage loans not exceeding single digits.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on the recently launched Lagos digital switchover.
Now, Thursday, 29th April 2021 saw to the beginning of an end to analog delivery to super connectivity and creative content as Lagos comes about the digital switchover.
Now, the Lagos launch is coming as a kickoff signal of the second phase of the rollout of the digital switchover across the country. And it will be recalled that the first phase of the digital switchover took place between April 2016 and February 2018 in Jos, Abuja, Ilorin, Kaduna, Enugu, and Osogbo.
And with Lagos described as Nigeria's creative hub, clusters of content providers and affiliates to the sector's digitization process in the state are expected to be cashing in big in this broadcast revolution.
Well, in the words of the Information Minister, the DSO provides us with a great platform to key into the Lagos Smart City project, which seeks to use technology to enhance service delivery in all spheres of life. Now, the DSO is not just about high fidelity, sound and picture, it's also about creating jobs, especially for our teeming youth, stimulating local content and empowering channel owners.
And multi-pronged harnessing on all projections, you would say, really, for a state like Lagos, already noted for its entertainment streak. The show will sure meet with the businesses to bring on showbiz at its best on the 60 choice channels coming on stream for households here.
Well, content is king, as the saying goes, but also clean, crisp and clear signals are given off in the eventual digital switchover, as the signal distributors have given assurance that when, of course, you have your set-top boxes with just a little token, then, of course, you'll be watching your TV free.
Exactly, Kingsley, and following closely with the order value addition as digital technology is enhancing what fusion broadcast and the Internet of Things can bring for a cosmopolitan state like Lagos if they get on the DSO train. We will be finding out all about these on the program with the experts on the field in the course of the program.
That's right, Jumai. Now the launch of the DSO is already giving up power and the extensive reach of modern broadcasting. And once again, as the Information Minister says, this can be cultivated in many different ways to project it as a veritable tool for national development. So,
as Lagos launches aboard the digital switch over train, what's the response from the first phase to the nation's moves as it borders around content distribution and other values in the broadcast revolution today? How affordable and replaceable are the set-top boxes, Kingsley?
Very pertinent questions there you have asked, Jumai. Now, if it took about 3 years between the first phase and the Lagos launch as the second phase, when are we then going to get around to the other states of the Federation, considering the number of times we have had to move the overall DSO for the country? We are going to raise these issues as well as others with our guests in our conversation segment, and indeed what the DSO means for you as a viewer of television right now and when the DSO does get to your location. I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I welcome you to today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. As always, we're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. And we're here in our nation's capital, Abuja. It was wet last night and it's pretty cool this morning, Juma.
I took a drive around while it was raining just to get the feel of it. And I'm Juma Yusuf, welcoming you to the program, which have our complimentary segments as usual in the course of the program. Meantime, here's Elizabeth Omori with the morning news. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, Jumai and Kingsley, and here is the morning news. The Department of State Services has condemned the statements that have continued to threaten government, sovereignty and corporate existence of this country. In a statement by Peter Afunanya, the department made reference utterances and activities of some religious and past political leaders who have either called for forceful change of government or mass action against it. It reminded all that even though democracy offers free speech, it does not give room to reckless pronouncements capable of undermining security, adding that the ballot box remains the vehicle of change in our democracy. It warned individuals and groups to stop engaging in acts inimical to the peace and sovereignty of this nation. While the service reaffirms its unambiguous support to an indivisible and united Nigeria state, in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution, it would no longer tolerate deliberate deliberate means by subversive and hostile groups whose agenda is to throw the country into anarchy so as to serve the interest of their sponsors. Consequently, the service is assiduously working with other security and law enforcement agencies to ensure the maintenance of peace and internal security of the country. The federal government establishes National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the establishment of the center to be domiciled in the office of the National Security Advisor. A statement from the Office of the National Security Advisor says the center replaces the defunct Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons and shall serve as the institutional mechanism for policy guidance, research, and monitoring of all aspects of small arms and light weapons in Nigeria. The impact of the proliferation of SALW across national borders in Africa and the Sahel region have resulted in terrorism, human trafficking, organized crime, and insurrections in West Africa and Nigeria, and to need to upscale measures to tackle these threats. The statement notes that the new center will be fulfilling the requirements of the ECOWAS moratorium on import, export, and manufacture of light weapons, as well as the UN Plan of Action to prevent, combat, and eradicate the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons. Major General Abba Mohammed Diko, former military advisor, United Nations Office for West Africa and Commander, Operation Lafia Dole, has been appointed the pioneer coordinator of the center. And still in security, troops of the newly reinvigorated Operation Hardin Kai thwarted Boko Haram terrorists' attempt to infiltrate into Ran town, the capital of Kalabaldi local government area of Borno State. A statement by the Director, Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Mohammed Yerima, says the terrorists met stiff resistance as troops rapidly repelled the terrorists, forcing them to withdraw in disarray, with injuries leaving behind several weapons and ammunition. Similarly, another band of Boko Haram terrorists attacked Ajuri town of Kanduga local government area of Borno State, killing some residents and burning 9 houses before they were engaged by the troops deployed to the area. Brigadier General Human notes that the retreating terrorists suffered gunshots injuries while troops were on their chase. 2 personnel, however, paid the supreme price in the encounter. The government of Bauchi State says it has noticed the presence of some criminal elements who have infiltrated 4 local areas in the state. Secretary to the government of Bauchi State, Sabiu Baba, made the disclosure after an emergency security meeting. It was reported that criminal elements are taking advantage of displaced persons seeking refuge in Bauchi State.
We will continue to profile whoever is coming into Bauchi State. I can tell you that some people come in with weapons, and it is the profiling that will help us stem that kind of problem.
The weapons being carried out, being carried around by some of these criminals are being tackled, and some of them have been recovered by us.
The 9th meeting of the National Council on Lands, Housing and Urban Development has approved the review of interest rates for mortgage loans, not exceeding single digit to enable the public into the loan scheme. This formed part of the resolutions contained in a 16-point communique issued at the end of the meeting in Jos.
Deploying many strategies to reduce this housing gap, among which are the public-private partnership, where government will provide on-site and off-site infrastructure and land at a subsidized amount.
The federal government is partnering with Microsoft to accelerate Nigeria's advance towards a more digital economy in line with the Economic Sustainability Plan. With the Digital Transformation Plan, not less than 5 million Nigerians would benefit from a digital upskilling program. Allocations in each of the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria will also enjoy active internet connection in cloud services.
We want to bridge gaps, strengthen connections, and ensure that no one is left behind. Partnerships like this are crucial to achieving these objectives, and I'd like to especially appreciate and thank our friends and partners, the Microsoft team, for the hard work and diligence and commitment that has made this partnership come to fruition so quickly.
The Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 has announced some measures taken to protect Nigerians from the deadly variant of COVID-19. A statement from the chairman of the Presidential Steering Committee and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Bas Mustafa, says after a risk assessment, an interim travel advisory has been issued on passengers and airlines from India, Turkey and Brazil as precautionary measures to minimize the risk of a surge in COVID-19 cases in Nigeria. In a recent survey by the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 shows most Nigerians no longer adhere to the safety protocols despite fears of possible third wave of the virus in the country.
The thing no go catch me. This skin enough for all people.
Young, healthy people have died. And we still don't fully understand the long-term consequences of infection for those who survive.
And for an update on the pandemic in Nigeria, 18 new COVID-19 infections have been recorded nationwide within the last 24 hours, bringing the country's total confirmed cases to 165,199. The Niger Center for Disease Control indicates that among the new cases, Lagos has 8, FCT 6, Edo 2, while Rivers and Ogun have 1 case each. Total discharged so far are 155,371, while the death toll remains 2,063. And that's the news this morning. Thank you so much for watching. Juma and Kingsley will be back after this break to stay with us.
My name is Nancy Oyedia Orom. I'm AIT correspondent. I've been covering the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 the last 1 year. I just took the jab, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and it was seamless. And I was opportune to take these vaccines with the SGF, the ministers. So I want to use this medium as a journalist for someone who has experienced COVID in the last 1 year. I want to implore media houses, broadcast industries. Let's join hands together to propagate the good information out there for people to believe in these vaccines. That's the only way we can have health immunity and also achieve the projection and target of Nigeria come 2022. Well, I must implore all Nigerians to go out there, register on the Primary Healthcare Development Agency website. These vaccines are free for all Nigerians. Go to the website, register. It is free for you and I.
I beg you, Sports Parliament, your weekly sports program, is back to the studio every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. live on the Nigerian Television Authority, Africa's largest television network. Watch out for the parliamentarians with renewed vigor and zest. Mr. Speaker with his gavel to harmonize sports resolutions. Sports Parliament, a must-watch. Sports Parliament, the home of sports verdict. The highs have it.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on 98's network service. It's time for business news, so let's join our correspondent, Comfort Amodu.
With nearly 90 million people projected to fall into extreme poverty from the impact of COVID-19 in 2020, the International Monetary Fund has implored governments of developing countries to scale up policies and strategies for economic recovery as nations ramp up vaccine production.
Governments should gradually scale back support programs and scale up targeted hiring subsidies and retraining and reskilling. This is particularly important for low-skilled workers, youth, and women who have borne the brunt of the crisis. Viable small businesses need more help through equity injections and better restructuring procedures.
Commending the remarkable efforts of Nigerian government towards recovery, and economist Taifa Abraham advised government to further evaluate sectors that performed well during the recession to speed up the recovery process in the country.
What the government needs to do is to identify those sectors that served as drivers in the GDP growth that has been recorded and support them through policy and reforms involving amendment in legislation where necessary, supporting reforms with ICT innovation, and then identify, on the other hand, those sectors that didn't do too well to see how to support them using government incentives and other palliatives that are contained.
With business news, Comfort Amodu. Many thanks, Comfort, for the business package. Next for us is newspaper review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Paya Aturebe, is with us in the studios. Paya, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kingsley. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hope you enjoyed the news last night.
Yes.
Slept well?
Well, I did.
So let's begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. We begin just on the, below the masthead. We have FG creates Center to check arms proliferation. You find details on page 7. Pay ransom to kidnappers forbidden. Professor Megari, you find details on page 30. And our headline story in the Daily Trust newspaper this morning: 5 months after bilateral talks, Nigerians' shops remain shut in Ghana. With riders, 40 more businesses closed. We are working with our people, that's attributed to the federal government. We beg to feed from the traders, Nigerian traders in Ghana. PDP offers to help Buhari, demands creation of border patrol squads. Details on page 27. NCAA lifts Asman Air suspension 6 weeks after. You find all that on page 14. Furor over killing of elephant in Ogun. Details on page 3. And the picture story we're seeing there, I know an incident averted. A petrol tanker skid to the other side of the road, causing traffic gridlock along Herbert Macaulay Way, Abuja yesterday. I think it was during the rain that took place yesterday. And at the bottom plate of the Daily Trust newspaper, 23 killed in fresh Benue attacks. With a rider, banditry, terrorism, signs of government weakness. That's attributed to ex-governors. Kingsley?
Okay, let's also take a look at the Nation newspaper. from top to bottom. Businessman arrested over Imo attacks. Uzodima to leaders, speak up. Mbaka, I took 3 expatriate contractors to Buhari. That's page 5. Bill Gates ends 27 years marriage with Melinda. Insecurity, TIV leaders call for Sule and Otom alliance. Boko Haram infiltrates Bauchi councils and Borno communities. And the lead story says abductors threaten to kill 17 students after collecting 55 million naira ransom. Kidnappers give today as deadline for 100 million naira payment. Parents beg. And further inside, you have other stories. Abductors of Kogi Council chief demand 100 million. That's figure there is saying 100 naira. It's actually 100 million. Abductors kill boy after 1 million naira ransom. Imo businessman killed at checkpoint. Herdsmen kill 11 in Benue attack. Need registration deadline now June 30th with 54 million enrolled. And you can see 3 photographs there. NDLEA recovers drugged cakes and cocaine in eateries. Rainstorm destroys 50 houses in Plateau communities. That's page 33. Bayo.
Well, thank you, Kingsley. Let's start with this human interest story. Abductors of students of Greenfield University, Kaduna, have threatened to kill the 17 students with them. The leader of the group, Abdul Jalingo, says that he wants 100 million and 10 brand new motorcycles from Kaduna State government or the family of the students. Failure to do this, he has threatened he will kill the 15 female students and 2 other female students that are with him. The bandits revealed that the families of the students had already raised and paid 55 million naira to them. However, they said that they had used that 55 million to feed the students. You may be recalled that the students were adopted on April 20th, and this is perhaps the 14th day they are having with them there, and they spent 55 million feeding 17 students in that number of days. He's reported to have said, we have had utterances from the Kaduna State government that ransom paid to bandits will be used to purchase arms. And when he was asked if he saw himself as a terrorist, Sani Jalingo laughed. He said, I am nothing but a food seeker. He reminded the security that they should not waste any time planting tractor gadgets on the motorcycles, because we don't live in the city. We live in the jungle, and so it will be useless tracking them. Well, a scholar, Makari, has said that it is irreligious to pay ransom to criminals. But within religious circles, there are certain things that are prohibited. But when at point of death,
yes, you have to.
You have to. That's compulsion beyond your control. This is a matter of life and death. Why we are not advocating for paying of ransom? If you were to talk to the parents of the 17 students who had gathered 55 million and sent it to the criminals.
And they said they used it to feed the
students.
55 million to feed, how many are they?
17, 15 female, 2 male students in a matter of 14 days. Well, it's very sad, but that is the challenge that all of us face, because if we are to place ourselves in the circumstance of these unfortunate 17 Nigerians who have, for no fault of theirs, they went to school trying to improve themselves, and they have found themselves in such difficult quandary. Our prayers is with them, and our hearts goes out with them. We hope and pray that they will come out of this safely.
Well, I mean, it's quite disturbing. The other students who were earlier kidnapped from the Federal College of Technology, Forestry Technology, still have not been released. And here you are, the students of Greenfield University, at least 5 of them have been murdered by their captors. The families of the kidnapped students have also raised 55 million. Assuming this were a legitimate transaction, you would say that that is a demonstration of good faith on the part of the parents and guardians of the students. You demanded for ransom, but the families were able to raise 55 million. You said you have fed them over 2 weeks. Maybe there's a 5-star hotel.
I wonder
where the victims have been held. But it just tells you the extent of the level of insecurity in the country and the challenge that we face.
Yes.
Non-state actors are making this kind of demands. If the parents were adamant and antagonistic, then you could say that, oh, that's the reason why the kidnappers are issuing further threats, that to say that by today, if you don't bring 100 million. Let's face it, we're all in this economy. Where will you get 100 million naira today? If you were to go, no bank, we know the way banks, no bank is going to give you a loan for this particular purpose. What collateral are you going to provide? The state government that is firing workers because it doesn't have the facilities to pay them. Is it the same state government that is going to give you the money? So I think that it's we also have to just worry about this and say that it's most unfortunate, and we do hope that those students remain alive and that they are released.
And they say they are doing it to feed.
Yes,
the
we
business
have
to
to
feed
appeal
themselves.
if they have any sense of milk of human kindness left in them. They've already gotten 55 million. That shows you the desperation of the parents, in spite of the fact that it is against their will to have their children released. On no account should they force onto the nation another murder of 17 students. They've already killed 7 students.
Yes, 7.
In cold blood, yeah. I don't know. I thought 3 first and then 2 later.
Okay, 5.
Yeah, but I mean, even if just one alone.
One life.
I mean, one alone. You saw the funeral ceremony for one of the young ladies. It's touching. I mean, you at the point that you are seeking to ramp up your level of education, and you get into the hands of those elements, and you're saying that the state government should give you this money and purchase motorcycles for you. What for? In aid of your kidnap activities, or what? I mean, it's. But the state should not. If I say the state now, I mean the Nigerian state, the Nigerian Federation, shouldn't demonstrate some helplessness. But part of what you find is, every other person is just going about their normal business. Unfortunately, if this were to happen in some other jurisdictions, there would be a virtual shutdown. Because if they carry out their threat, and we hope they do not, then it just keeps going on and on. And the fact that the leaders of the kidnappers are able to interact with some media tells you that communication is going on. And is there any means of communication these days that cannot be intercepted?
Still talking about security, the Punch reports that Bauchi state government has raised alarm over influx of suspected Boko Haram fighters into 4 local governments of Bauchi state. The secretary to the state government, who addressed the press after a security meeting, indicated that there have been influx of persons who are running away from the attack in Gaidam into 4 local governments of Zaki, Dambam, Darazo, and Gamawa. The Punch reports that suspected terrorists have launched attack on a communication mast. However, the Tribune reports that 5 bandits have been arrested for attacking a mast. But the secretary to the government of Bauchi says that because Bauchi shares border with 4 local governments of Bauchi shares border with Yobe, they now have to be very careful about the influx of persons, displaced persons who are coming in. He said to contain them from security threats, because it's not impossible that some of these people who are coming are likely to be carrying weapons. So there is need to profile them, whoever is coming, and it is profiling that will help us stem the kind of problem. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party has offered security suggestions to the federal government of Nigeria. The rules for our emergency security meeting, National Executive Council meeting yesterday, and made the recommendations. They said that state police is a sine qua non for security as practiced in all federations. Another recommendation they made is that they urged the party urged for the deployment of technology to fight crime. They also want establishment of state police and then the setup of border Border Patrol Command outside the traditional immigration and customs services to check influx of armed criminals coming into the country. On the other interesting stories coming up today.
Dio, we're running out of time.
Yes, okay.
We have to go to the editorial. It's just hope rises for malaria vaccine breakthrough.
Well, vaccine is an antidote that you give to the body to protect it against an ailment. And there is news that there is a possibility of a vaccine for malaria. It has been on trial in Burkina Faso, and it has been found to be very effective for children between the age of 5 and 17, and it's been described as 77% effective. While the editorial is hailing it is that in Nigeria, and particularly in Africa, UNICEF says that within every 30 seconds, a child is likely to die from malaria. And also, our maternal death, 11% of maternal death are sources of malaria. So if you have a vaccine that will serve the body to protect from malaria, it will have gone a long way in saving a lot of lives.
Exactly. Well, Bayo, thank you so much for coming this morning.
Thank you too.
It's been a pleasure. We'll take a break right now. When we return, our conversation will begin.
Here today, gone tomorrow. 'Cause you volatile like the water, and you promise what you don't know. Sometimes it's right and then it's so wrong. Then what did I say, then why? I promise you the world, but all I want shit. I'm all already open. I said no be one time, like you'll be like that.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
My name is Dr. Faisal Shuaib. I am the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Earlier today, I took my first shot of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Despite all of the delays, all of the doubts, here we are, Nigerians can finally access the vaccines. I hope that Nigerians will come out and get this vaccine because these vaccines are safe, they're effective, and they truly work. Over the course of the next few weeks, we have to continue wearing face masks. We have to do social distancing, but I know eventually once we're able to get herd immunity, then we'll be able to stop all of these non-pharmaceutical interventions. To get the vaccination, you should go to the MPHCDA website. There's a link on there that you click and you can register and schedule exactly where you want to get your vaccine.
Life is a game. We are cool. we are trendy. Energy moves us. Sports is our game, our oxygen. Because with the round leather we ball, we hustle. All over the land, north and south, we are united in the positive glory. We are encapsulated by HIFL. We live for the game. It's game time, showing on MTN Network.
Well, welcome back, and this is still Good Morning Nigeria. To kickstart our conversation, here is a background report packaged by Oyeyemi Ajayi.
For decades now, broadcast signals had been on analog spectrum connection, giving off concerns of signal reception in terms of clarity and other aspects to quality for the players and watchers alike in the industry. Not forgetting increasing obsolescence to analog broadcast equipment. Even as innovation meets technology by the day, thereby pushing huge costs in maintenance and support for old and analog systems still in use. However, the year 2000, called the Millennium Year, beamed a new ray of hope with a global campaign of analog digital television migration in order to maintain a controlled picture quality as well as lower maintenance costs of systems and reduction of operational costs. The migration to digital television offers billions of people the opportunity to be able to access a range of new services and programming globally to increase the satisfaction they derive from watching television. In June 2006, a treaty was signed at the conclusion of the International Telecommunication Union Regional Radio Communication Conference in Geneva, heralding the development of all digital terrestrial broadcast services for radio and television. Between April 2016 and February 2018, Nigeria's first phase of the rollout under the brand name Free TV covered Jos, Ilorin, Enugu, Osogbo, and the Federal Capital Territory. To successfully cover the entire nation, the federal government embarked on a phase 2 of the project, meant to roll out in 5 more states, which includes Kano, Rivers, Gombe, Yobe, and Lagos. The launch at Lagos marks the beginning of the second phase of the rollout of DSO across the Federation. It is said that the DSO project will enhance the Lagos Smart City project while revolutionizing television viewing for more than 5 million TV households in the state. With the expectation that within 6 months, analog broadcasting will be switched off in Lagos, all households will need to purchase the set-top box to view multiple channels on the spectrum. More channels certainly will demand more contents. These, observers say, will bring about the creation of close to 1 million jobs within the next 3 years in Lagos and the opportunity of offering viewers about 60 digital channels including sports, music, movies and news. It also provides value-added services. So far, what is the level of patronage from content producers, and how competitive can free TV be when compared to other paid satellite cable channels? How favorable will local content be as compared to offering with foreign channels today? These are some of the questions guests on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria will be answering shortly.
Thank you very much, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for that background. With us in the studios now, let's welcome the chairman of the DG team, that's Engineer Edward Amana. Engineer Amana, pleasure to have you this morning.
Thank you very much.
Also with us for this conversation is Professor Armstrong Idachaba. He's Acting Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission. Professor Idachaba, delighted to have you as well.
Thank you, Kingsley. Good to be here. Good morning.
And we're also being joined in the studio by Mr. Maxwell Loko. He's Managing Director, NTA TV Enterprises. We're in Abuja studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And also joining the conversation from our Lagos studio, let's welcome Tosin Ilesami, Managing Director at LG Communications Nigeria Limited. Good to have you in the program.
Morning.
All right, gentlemen, once again, a pleasure to have you for this conversation. Obviously, Lagos is perhaps the biggest market in terms of television audiences. I don't have quite the numbers, But in terms of population and also in terms of economic activities, one can be sure that Lagos is the place to be in a number of instances. I'm just wondering, therefore, beginning with Engineer Edward Amana, what does the launch of the digital switchover in Lagos mean for those who access television broadcasting in that megalopolis?
Thank you very much. For us, Lagos is a significant move. Since the launch of the beginning of the launch of digital terrestrial television, most of the station owners have actually been putting pressure that we needed to move to Lagos, because all of them depends on adverts to sustain their businesses. And we're told that almost 70% of the media advert comes from Lagos. So significantly for them, Lagos is the place to be. And this move has now, to a great extent, satisfied their yearning over the years that we should launch in Lagos. We were a bit hesitant in going to Lagos in the first instance, because you don't want to go to Lagos and make a mistake. It's not a place to do any you have to be sure of yourself before you move into the Lagos market, because if you fail in Lagos, forget about the rest of the country. So that's the significance of Lagos in the rollout of the DSO so far.
Okay, thank you. Let me now, Mr. Engineer Edward Amana, it's been 3 years since the first phase took place, and I'm sure Nigerians are sort of lost track of what actually happened then, and now this one is on board. What does it mean for Nigeria? What can it do? What can we gain from it as a nation?
Come again. Is it a time lag?
Yes, I'm sure Nigerians have sort of lost track with what happened 3 years ago, with so much happening around. So I believe they would like to know more about the switch over.
All right, let me take you. I'll take you back to where we're coming from.
Yes.
Right. When we started the rollout with the pilot in Jos, came to Abuja and moved on to the last place we were was in state of Osun. After that,
Osun State.
Well, the governor says the state of Osun.
No, there is a judicial decision to that effect.
Okay.
That the state of Osun does not exist.
Then I stand corrected.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is that from Osun State, we came into an election year for the presidency.
Yes.
And in a critical election like that, nobody had time to address the issue. As you well know, the Minister of Information and Culture more or less was the driving force for the takeoff from Jos to all the other places. And because of the crisis and the party then, he had to more or less relocate his office to go and attend to the issues in Kwara State. So everything came to a standstill and it took quite a while before a cabinet was reorganized, and we're lucky to still have him back on the same seat. So the time lag between when elections started, the election was won before the cabinet was now put back in place. So that more or less destabilized the envisaged rollout timetable. And by the time he came back, a lot of the service providers were being owed money, and we couldn't continue any rollout because they were cash strapped in the business. And thereafter, it was how many months ago that he got authorization from the Executive Council to pay the indebtedness, which is the 9.4 billion naira that the Federal Executive Council approved towards repayment of outstanding indebtedness on the DSO. So with the promise that they're going to be paid, that's why we had the impetus again to now start the second phase of the rollout.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Amana. Professor Idachaba, now while we are discussing what this means for industry players, let's also try and get out of that loop and indicate what it means for the end user. I mean, I have a television set in my house just as you do. If all these technicalities, what would they mean for me as a television viewer, other than just the industry stakeholders, whether service providers, content providers, channel providers, and so on and so forth? That's the first question I asked. So break it down for our viewers so that they can begin to have a grasp and a feel of what this means ultimately.
Thank you, Kingsley. And I'm wondering the kind of TV you have in your house. Is it HD TV or the digital TV or analog TV?
it's not a box.
What I said is key because most Nigerians actually currently enjoy analog TV, right? And what we want to do is actually targeted at those you call the downtrodden, the lower rung. Don't forget that even as we speak, those who are in the upper rung, the rich people like you, and probably my Oga Engineer Mana, can afford digital content.
I'm sure our viewers have a sense of who is more prosperous.
So there's digital television content on the pay TV service, on GoTV, on DSTV, and it's been here for upwards of 2 decades. But the issue and the imperative is on government delivering that same TV quality content to those who are in the middle lower rung. And it's an imperative that's imposed by revolutions in digital technology, also by the desire to maximize the value of spectrum. And what we have consciously done as a policy is to evolve the technology that will more or less enhance this viewing experience without necessarily imposing cost. The structure, the architecture is that there will be digital television transmission, and then there will be a set-top box, like a mini decoder, that will now convert those digital content or transmission, and make it maybe tolerable or maybe convert it to acceptable digital content on analog television. So the ordinary man doesn't have to push away his analog TV, which is key. All he needs to do to get the digital experience is just to get a small set-top box, which is in any case produced in country, because the government of Nigeria deliberately licensed 13 local manufacturing companies in Nigeria, indigenous, and said, look, we'll give you the tax of manufacturing these boxes so that we can meet the huge population of our country. And that way, we are also more able, to step up advances in terms of transfer of technology and the ancillary benefits of engagement of technicians and engineers and other work options that may avail. So the proposition begins from the ordinary person. And apart from the fact that, well, he shares the digital experience, he now is exposed to a lot of advantages. One, there will be multiplicity of channels, which before now used to be exclusive preserve of the house. The ordinary man in his home, in his village, the inner recesses of Morocco, fringes of Kubwa, Kuje, and all those other areas are now able to also have a remote control, to diversify content. They can now watch sports, music, news, the same way that those at the upper rung will ordinarily have. Now, and it comes with the boost because channels are going to be created. And with more channels, of course, there will be more creative endeavor. We expect that those who have been looking for opportunities, to unleash their creative potential now have an opportunity to do so. We expect that our youths and creative young Nigerians will be more innovative in terms of what they come up to, and the opportunities will be there. So you can see that there are multiplier benefits, ordinarily speaking. And in Lagos, as Engineer Mana was saying, you asked earlier, you were talking about data. The research we have done indicates clearly that there are a minimum of about 5 million TV homes in Lagos. So what that means is that at the instant, you are more able to, as we roll that switch on in Lagos, we will be able to move about 5 million Nigerians, across the digital divide. And what is even more significant with the transition is that it comes with some kind of convergence between broadcast and telecom, because there's an infusion, of telecom applications, on the set-top box that also enables you to do some kind of data sharing, ancillary service addition, and the stuff. So the benefits are multiplier in terms of job opportunities, in terms of TV viewer experience, in terms of even the diversity that comes, and then access, to information, which is also very critical.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Idachaba. Mr. Maxwell Loko, this is a boom for content providers in Nigeria, and this is a country where it's all about content. We have a array of teeming news out there, dishing out content on YouTube and social media all the time. Now they have a platform where they can, showcase their talent. How easy and accessible will it be for them to bring in their content for it to be aired?
Okay, thank you very much. I like the fact that the DGMBC emphasized that one of the critical advantage of this digital switchover is a multiplicity of content. You will understand that before now, most people, especially during the analog era, have only the option of watching one channel at a time, depending on which channel is their option. Now, this offers opportunity for the creative industry, particularly our teaming youth that we do know that are very creative, especially in terms of content. Now, ideally, broadcasting is a 24-hour non-stop phenomenon, and that means there will be opportunity for every platform or every channel that is on the platform to deliver 24 hours of compelling content. And what does that mean? It means in a cycle of 24 hours, people can now, who have content, who have creativity in content, or who are very creative in content, can now have multiple channels where they can deploy this content. And that is why we say the creative industry, especially in terms of content, will be the greatest beneficiary. Now you have a situation where content are deployed in the social media that are uncensored, unregulated. But I can assure you that for every content that goes on the digital free TV, you will be assured that it's being properly checked and it will be professional. So rather than dish out content that may not even fetch them money, that may not even empower them economically, they now have an opportunity in terms of availability of platforms to deploy all their creativity on this platform and possibly also make money in the process.
All right, thanks a lot, Mr. Maxwell Loko. We'll return to you in the course of this conversation. Let's bring in now Mr. Tosin Ilesami, who is Managing Director of RLG Communications Limited. He's there in our Lagos studios. Mr. Ilesami, tell us what this means for television viewers in Lagos. The question may very well be, the DSO has been launched in Lagos, so what?
I've listened to the key stakeholders talk, and what I will say is that I think there's a lot of technicality that is being said around this. Let me try to bring the analogy to the simple mind. In the past, we used to have fixed phones, and it was almost exclusive to airlines. And we moved then to the GSM. What has happened is that virtually everybody can now access not just the networks on their phones, but they can do far more. They can not just call and make text messages, but now they can view their phones to do so much. Just as Mr. Maxwell Loko mentioned, that is exactly what will happen to television experience. Today, you have about 5 million TVs viewers in Lagos. But what Mr. Armstrong did not mention is that 5 million are not all digital. Quite a number of them, maybe more than 50% of them, are on analog. So what will happen is that when we go completely digital, these people will be able to view a whole new different television experience. they'll be able to enjoy that which used to be exclusive to, to the airlines. So it's a whole new experience altogether. Don't forget that this will introduce data, internet to homes. So they can do far more than just watching television. It's a new experience altogether, and I think that most people will be happier for it.
Okay, are stakeholders ready to, take up this uphill task of meeting the required millions of set boxes that is needed, for the actual transmission of the digital switch over? I'm still staying with you, Mr. Elesami.
We are manufacturers, even though I didn't quite get the question, but with regards to manufacturing of those boxes, I would also like to liken it back to when we came into the GSM era. We got into that era very happy that everybody could make calls, but we forgot the critical element of the hardware, which is the phone itself, which is a consumable, which people must buy to be able to make those calls. We have over 155 million active lines by NCC data, which tells you that over 155 million phones. But guess what? Virtually all of these are imported. So I think the government has gotten it right now to say, look, let us license local manufacturers for the set-top boxes. Set-top boxes that will be needed in Nigeria to have a complete switchover will be something in the range of about 40 million. Think of how many jobs can be created in that local assembly. Think of how many knowledge will be transferred, to the ground. So it's a huge opportunity for local manufacturing, and I think this time around, the value chain we experienced a boom from manufacturing to content producers, even to the end users who have their experiences.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Elesami. We'll return to you. Let's come back to our Abuja studios. Engineer Amana, well, this is the phase 2, as it were, of the rollout.
Right.
Has the team been able to catch its breath and look back and say, okay, we had the first launch, that's the
phase 1.
the JOS rollout, we've had in Abuja, we've had in a few other places. What has been the experience?
Well, as we go along, we meet new challenges. And actually, the phase 1 was quite a learning experience, right from the pilot stage. Pilot stage in JOS was the one that actually gave us the reality of the task ahead. So over the period where we were like, okay, we have mastered the art of the rollout now. But significantly, a major factor still is issue of funding. There's still more funding required, though we say the government is no longer going to do any subsidy, but that is mainly in the area of purchase of set-top boxes. The phase 1 was mainly based on subsidized set-top boxes. But like we said, as the number increases, the cost of the boxes will begin to come down. If you compare with what he just said about the issue of GSM, for example, I think my first GSM phone cost me 39,000 naira. Out of that 39,000 naira, it was a SIM that actually cost 20,000, the SIM alone, then. And the phone itself was like 9,000. All right. Now they give you the SIM more or less free of charge. All right. So the same is likely to happen over the years as demand increases. The set-top box manufacturers will find ways to continually to address issue of costing, so that everybody will be able to afford a set-top box in the home. And for us, going forward, as we move from place to place, the task actually becomes a little bit more easy for us to address, because we know the challenges we're going to face. Fortunately, The rest of phase 1, I mean the rest of phase 2, where we're going, we're dealing with topography that is more or less flat ground. So issue of hills and valleys and so on becomes less of a problem, because Kano is more or less just flat ground. So by the time you put on your transmitter in the best location you can find in the place, you virtually cover the whole place. From 95%, we have scaled down to say, okay, any location we can get more than 70% population coverage, we're ready to switch off all the analog transmitters. And once that is done, those in that location will have to purchase their set-top boxes to be able to see. Now, the uncovered areas where it is uneconomical to stretch coverage beyond 70%, we use a satellite backup to be able to fill up the gap. Okay, like in Abuja now, we've not been able to switch off analog because areas, for those who know Abuja, areas beyond, on your way to Nyanyan, those areas, there's this range of hills that, blocks the signal coming from the city. And those areas has to be addressed before we can now switch off. That means Pinnacle, who are the service providers in Abuja, will have to set up gap fillers. But after they've done that, if it's still impossible, if you have pockets of areas that are uncovered, this will be addressed via satellite.
Okay. Jumai and Engineer Mana, I know that there's a lot of analogy that has been drawn between the GSM and the digital switchover. Part of the early experience that we had with GSM when we were transiting from the old Nitel or P&T, in those days, you used to see telephone wires, in different locations. One of the major challenges that we had early on with GSM had to do with the very few base stations that they had in different parts of the country, until the service providers then started giving assurance that no, don't worry, a base station is coming near you, coverage is going to expand. And if you recall, a number of the adverts, particularly those who were able to expand more, that was one of the sales point of the advertisement. Let's clarify this. I want to bring in Mr. Maxwell Loco one more time, so that, as I said, some of these technicalities, the viewer is not interested in those technicalities, as it was with the GSM. All I wanted at the time, and I'm sure the same thing with you, I had my phone, punched the number I wanted to call, and then I went through. Or unfortunately, we also had instances where if you had another number near you, you were calling the number, said the number you are calling cannot be reached. So because of those technical issues, and it brought a lot of frustration, to the end users.
Which still happens. It still happens
in some cases, but the kind of ordeal that we had 20 years ago is considerably reduced. I was just wondering, Mr. Maxwell Loco, tell again, using Abuja, because we heard that there was a rollout in Abuja, and at some point, I think along the Yaya axis, which Engineer Amana referred to, they were selling set-top boxes for, at some point, 3,000 or 1,005. What has this meant, for instance, to those who are on that axis or who are in Kubwa or elsewhere? I mean, what has this meant to them that we have now switched over to the digital transmission?
All right, thank you, Kingsley. It's good to draw the parallel, with GSM. But I think we have a whole lot of difference between GSM and the analog switchover. You also understand and realize that for everything, including this kind of technology, there is what we call the learning curve, or what we call the teething problems. The GSM promised there were gaps, and I think eventually they got better. Same thing here, the teething problems are not just unique to the DSO. You will understand that the gap fillers, or the gap areas where people can't get to the digital signal, like Engineer Mana said, will be addressed in the near future. The DTT, or the free TV, it's a physical TV. It's not like the satellite where you dish out signal from a place, and with your dish, you receive all the signals. Topographies and all those things could be a hindrance. And unfortunately, the viewers' experience, like Abuja, you mentioned, may not have been so pleasant because the majority of the low end that the DSO is meant for are living in those they are living at those fringes where the DSO cannot reach. But moving forward, we have taken note of that, and we want to assure the viewers that sooner or later, once the total 75% TV landscape of Abuja, because you cannot achieve, or you cannot say you have achieved DSO if you have not achieved up to 75 to 80% of the TV landscape of a location. That is to say, the 80% of people in Abuja must be said to be watching the free TV before we can brag that it has been a success. The set-top boxes availability wasn't an issue in Abuja and Jos, particularly because those were set-top boxes that were subsidized by the government, and that is why they were even as cheap as 3,000. So people could actually afford them. But somebody living in Yanya who has a set-top box and cannot get the signal, then the DSO doesn't mean anything to him. And the DSO is not meant for somebody, for people who are living in exclusively in Asokoro, Apo, and Metama, and the rest of it. The targets are actually those who are living around Yanya, Mararaba, and so forth. So we have recognized that. We have also identified that as part of the teething problems of DSO, which will be addressed very soon. And this also applies to viewers around Jos. You will understand that only people living around the metropolis of Jos currently are watching the free TV. And until we're able to get to places like Mangu, Shendam, Langtan, and so forth in Jos, it's only then can we say that digital switchover in Jos has been a success. But people should understand that these challenges will be addressed, especially now that the DSO has picked steam. We use those places to test case, or as a test case before we launch in Lagos. But the fact that we're in Lagos now speaks for itself, that we have identified those areas that will have challenges, and in a very short while they will be addressed. And we've made it easy that as soon as you get your set-top box, it's just plug and go. There's no technicality about it. Just get a set-top box, plug, and it will be activated. Just like that. So we hope that all these challenges will be addressed as quickly as possible.
Mr. Loco, I still want to stay with you. Again, clarify this for our viewers. When you say, for instance, that the driving principle behind DSO, driving principle for the other auxiliary benefits is to reach let's say underprivileged locations. The question then arises, what should those who are in otherwise affluent or middle income locations do if they now want to hop on the services that are available via the launch of the DSO? I mean, for instance, a subscriber to Star Times, which is one of the spin-offs of NTA TV Enterprises. If they say, look, TV Star Times is becoming a bit too expensive for me, let me get onto this DSO, what do I need to do?
Well, if we say our target at the low end of the society, we are not excluding the high end. But you know, the experience we want to bring to the low end is the fact that over a long period of time, people who seem to enjoy digital TV, like the satellite TV, the Star Times you mentioned, and DSTV and so forth, have always been those at the high end, probably like you, Kingsley.
Sorry, Mr. Loco, let me issue this disclaimer. Because in that chapter, Armstrong, I call him Louis Armstrong, and I also said the same thing, so that the viewers don't go away with the wrong impression that this is a high-value target. We don't blow grammar here. Mr. Loco.
So we are not excluding them. And you know, we've had complaints where people would say, why do I have to keep several decoders in my house? I have the DSTV Star Times, and now you are telling me to have the free TV decoder. But moving forward, we are also trying to collapse all these services so that with one set-top box, you can as well switch from pay to free. The pay TV, for instance, or the pay channels will be encrypted until you pay before you watch. But if you don't have money to pay, the same decoder, for instance, can allow you watch the free TV. So it's going to be a win-win, both for the low end and the high end. Now, we are not really saying that, okay, there will be no business for the pay TV operators like the Star Times, the DSTVs of this world. But it's all about options and choice. People should have the choice to watch what they want to watch. If you have the money to pay and watch pay TV, so be it. But there are many others there. We're talking about more than 30 million households in Nigeria, which is very conservative. And if you put together statistically the total number of pay TVs, what do you call it, the subscribers in Nigeria for pay TV, I may be wrong. They are probably less than 10 million of 200 million people. So what happens to the 100 and something million people that cannot afford the pay TV? So those people are our target. They are the low ends we are talking about, and I don't mean low ends derogatorily, but they are the ones who may likely not be able to afford the pay TV, which has been, you agree with me, has been so much, there have been so much complaints of late by subscribers of frequent upward review of prices. That is even for those who can afford it. So ultimately, the system and the model is going to capture or take into cognizance the interests of both those who are watching the pay and those who want to migrate to the free, and will also give you the option to watch both or to watch one of the options.
I hear there's a catch. After buying the box, is there a yearly payment?
Yes, but we want to be careful not to say you are paying subscription.
Okay.
Once we call it DAF, that is the digital access fee. And the digital access fee, of course, should not be more than 1,500. I think Professor Idachaba will correct me if I'm wrong. And this 1,500 is you pay it only once in a year. And people should not mistake it like they're paying subscription. No. The 30, 60, and moving forward, even up to 100 channels are being made available depending on the frequency and how the signal distributors will multiplex it, will be free. That's the day you plug it, you are not paying anything again until the end of the year, when the system automatically switches it off and asks you to go and pay a digital access fee. And again, we are trying to see how the local government will effectively collect the TV radio license, which has been lying dormant. And this is huge cash that should be made from tax that should be collected from people. Now the local government, most local governments across the country now cannot even collect this TV radio license tax. So we are trying to see how we can build it in the inclusive of the digital access fee, so that once you pay this, you will enjoy all those channels for 12 months without necessarily being burdened to be paying subscription every month like the pay TV, does.
Okay, Mr. Loko, thank you very much for the explanation. I want Professor Idachaba to amplify some of these points that you have raised. Let's say those who are having the services of pay TV, say in Abuja. Now there's been a rollout in Abuja, or even in Lagos or Jos or elsewhere, and you say, no, listen, I want to also have the DSO or free TV, so I can purchase both of them and get a tech hand to install. And one is going, and the one is going, of course, every month I have to feed it. If I don't pay my subscription, it goes off, and then I go to the relative or woof that is for the free TV. So, but the one question that arises is, well, do you have a choice in the channels that you can subscribe to, well, not subscription now, in the channels that you can have access to on the DSO set-top box, or it is what is there that you take?
All right, Kingsley, thank you so much. I think it's time to underscore the point about the uniqueness of the Nigerian DTT Open brand. The initiative of the federal government is to make that brand a truly cultural heritage for the Nigerian people. And we have consciously arranged it in a way that most, if not 98.9% of the content that you see on that bouquet are actually homegrown. And it's strategic, deliberately strategic, because we want to use it, to stimulate growth in the creative sector. Now, we also know that philosophically, Nigerians are very much attuned to local content, and we know that it's a brand that all Nigerians look up to. I had an experience during the COVID-19 lockdown when we wanted to compel the pay TV stations to open up the channels, the local channels, for Nigerians to watch free of charge so that they can follow the communication about COVID-19. And it took us quite a while to convince the pay TV channels to just open up our own local channels. Point being that there's a growing interest, growing patronage of local Nigerian content. So we believe it's a proposition that holds, it's a proposition that's useful, is a proposition that also serves as a melting point, for the experiences of Nigerians. And for that reason, it is obvious that every Nigerian must have access, to this DTT Open TV option. And what is significant is that it is free. It is free because it is also the responsibility of government to give access of information to the Nigerian people. Don't forget that when we transit, the only mode for reception of news, content, entertainment will be through the DTT. So it will therefore be prohibitive if there's any kind of tariff paying or subscription paying, and that is why we said it's going to be a very open proposition. So nothing stops you. In fact, what I envisage is that times are going to come when even those who are wealthy will begin to enjoy the free TV option to the extent that they may forget to pay subscription, sadly. Because the DTT free option also comes with the advantages of the DTT pay. Pluralism and diversity of choices. And like you said, will the ordinary viewer be able to enjoy diverse content at will? Yes. It's the power of the remote control, which is also given by the DTT open proposition. So, and like we have lined up, the NBC has consciously and deliberately licensed channel owners to reflective of these regimes of content. So we have new entrants in the news sector, we have new entrants, young Nigerians in the fashion and music industry that are also coming up with their channels. And then there are a lot of movie channels that are also coming up. In Lagos, for instance, as we speak, we have licensed well over 145 new TV channels that are willing to enter into the ecology. So it's a big push, and I believe strongly that there are going to be innovative content that are going to be on the free DTT proposition that will be compelling and will also drive traffic to the DTT free option.
The craze now is soccer or sports. And the so-called viewing centers, where they go to watch Champions League. Today, of course, will be another crazy day when Man City will host PSG, the second leg of the semi-final. So you have a number of sporting events, but more particularly soccer, where viewing centers collect, I don't know what is it, 50 naira, 100 naira for people to watch. And sometimes, except for those pay TVs, where you can have access to a number of these matches, viewers are going to wonder, this free TV on the basis of this digital switchover, will they also have access to those matches?
Yeah, as a deliberate proposition, as a deliberate strategy. If you remember, sometime last year, there was this whole buzz about the amendments to the broadcasting code, where we clearly stated that we're going to break monopoly. We're going to ensure that owners of content, especially where Nigerians are interested in certain degrees of content, are able to make those content available to other Nigerians at mutually agreed prices. Now, there's an index of commodification of content. You know, it's about premium content, it's about profit maximization for the owners of content. But there's also the social nationalistic imperative that Nigerians, especially where they are interested in content, must have access. So we have made it in such a way that even the premiership you're talking about, we know for sure that even within
I spoke about Champions League, not Premier. Premier League is also there, but you would have said La Liga.
Okay, we are a La Liga man. Well, for us, they are all foreign sporting content. Yeah. And what is key is actually making them available to Nigerians. Of course, there's a differential between what you get in terms of premium content on the pay TV sector, but there's also the imperative of subletting or creating windows, you know, that are also be carried on the DTT free. And it happens even now. I'm sure weekends, NTA is allowed to carry certain matches, you know, and that is the way we intend to go. We're already in talk with the owners of this premium content with the view that where Nigerians are interested, windows must be created.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Let's now go to Lagos, where Mr. Tony Ilansami is waiting. We've been talking about content providers, and but I'm looking at it from the technical point of view. Is this a boom for engineers and technicians in Nigeria now, since we are producing the box in this country? Is it a boom for them? Will it be an open opportunity for them to, you know, discover themselves and bring out new talents?
Definitely. The set-top box manufacturing will create platform for other handheld devices and digital devices to be created. You know, and this will need expertise of our young engineers who want to express themselves in those fields. Just permit me to go into the conversation that was going on. One of the benefits of this DSO is the volume of people that will use it, especially like Mr. Maxwell mentioned, not mentioning them as in a bad manner, but the poor. So, you know, I've done a bit of analysis myself, and I've seen that, look, if we have 40 million boxes, and these people will pay DAF every year, I want you to imagine the volume of revenue that can be created. Now, the issue here is, how do these very poor people, you know, be able to access these boxes? I think there's a part of this that the government, especially state governments and local government, need to recognize that there's a role they need to play to bridge the gap for people who cannot afford this in their locality. And especially as they will be generating revenue over time for this, I think that needs to be looked at. As manufacturers, we can see that prices will go up, not because manufacturers want to make more money. Chipsets are already going up globally. That's it's a global trend. And then the Nigerian situation, dollar continues to go, you know, increase. We hope that it comes down soon. But if you put these factors together, I foresee a situation where the average, you know, Nigerian will struggle to afford a box. But if the government looks at it from the perspective that, okay, if we give these people boxes, and then we can collect revenue from them, the DAF, for the next 5 years, 10 years, I think we can find a meeting point where, you know, this could actually be a sort of palliative, especially as government needs to continually reach out to these people in terms of information.
I mean, what's one chief concern for us here on Good Morning Nigeria is to seek to break down the idea of government. We keep saying government, government, government. Mr. Maxwell Oko, which government do we have in mind? We know that the federal government is driving all of this, but once you have the full rollout, extensive coverage, 75–80%, it means that all tiers of government will have the opportunity of be utilizing or leveraging on free TV, if we may so call it. So why does there appear to be an accent on apparently the federal government to bankroll this? Earlier you were talking about the opportunities inherent for states and local governments in particular, because local governments are under states, to collect TV licenses. I mean, radio licenses are already being collected, by the way, when you go to register, renew your vehicle license. But for TV and an opportunity for them to also collect, what is it that the states and local governments are doing at this stage? Set-top boxes do not appear to cost an arm and a leg.
Well, you are quite correct, Kingsley. We have discussed extensively on the need to make this a market-driven model. We are also not very comfortable that government should continuously be involved. But you know, at the initial stage of DSO all over the world, especially those who have had it before us, there was massive government intervention. And so we are thinking Nigeria should not be an exception. But we know government too is struggling with dwindling revenue and priorities. So we have continuously discussed amongst ourselves that the business model must change. It must be customer-centric, it must be market-driven. Probably the point Tosin in Lagos wanted to make was the fact that since the very low end that we are targeting may get to a point where even affordability will be an issue, and since government has an advantage of pushing information to these people on a continuous basis, nothing stops them at the local government level or the state government level to subsidize this for them. But that is not to say that this will not move on without government intervention. But at the local government level, particularly the local government we're talking about, they may even stand to benefit more than any other person. He talks about 40 million set-top boxes. Lagos alone, 5 million boxes averagely. If you, I don't know what the radio license or the TV license is now, statutorily, but whatever it is, if you multiply that by 5 million, that is revenue that is lying fallow to be collected. So I don't think it's considered a waste if government intervenes in such a way that it becomes win-win for both the people who are going to enjoy this DSO and the government that is also going to push information to them and make sure that they also collect revenue in the process.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll return to you, but right now we have to take a break. The conversation continues shortly.
Temporary times require practical skills to remain competitive and relevant in your organization. Therefore, take advantage of NTA TV College short proficiency courses to sharpen your professional skills. Basic Broadcast Accounting and Auditing. Date 19th April to 30th April 2021. 2 weeks. Audio Engineering, Operations and Maintenance. Date 19th April to 23rd April 2021. 1 week. Protocol, Event Management and Public Relations. Date 3rd May to 14th May 2021. 2 weeks. Intermediate Camera Operation Techniques. Date 17th May to 11th June 2021. 4 weeks. The course fee for the 4-week course is 100,000 naira per participant. The fee for the 2-week course is 80,000 naira, while the course fee for the 1-week course is 40,000 naira only. Accommodation inclusive. Venue for all the courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA TV College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, Jos. Training you to be the best you want to be.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA. Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations.
Welcome back. We just went on the break, but now we need to take some tweets before we continue our conversation. I'll begin with Ibrahim Usman. He says, please, it is long overdue. Open more and be ahead of time.
Mike Ayako, Lagos digital switchover is a welcome development and a huge plus in our quest for development. Other states should key into this venture.
Yeah, Utolo Sunday tweets, this is a welcome development considering the enormous benefits that come with it. We hope the switch over take over the entire nation soon. Dele Jack Solomon, DSO will provide job opportunities and many businesses, especially those in entertainment and tourism, will boom, while content can also be used to inform and engage citizens on governance as well as bring government closer to the people. And Festus Akimboewa, Lagos digital switchover should be applauded as it will expand the choice of TV services available to Lagosians. Time to move away completely from analog TV to digital TV in our country. Federal government must invest in satellite, cable, broadband, or terrestrial broadcast to achieve this. Mutana Farouk, the initiative of migrating from analog to digital broadcasting is commendable and also allied to global best practices. However, maintenance and sustainability culture is germane in order to keep the ball rolling. And Alpha C, Lagos DSO is a welcome technological development relevant for creating jobs for the teeming youths, for those in the entertainment and tourism sector, and provide an array of local TV channels to inform the people more on the policies and ideas of government. All right, those are the tweets that we will take in the meantime. Let's return to our guests. Engineer Man, I'm going to pause you before we get back into some of the technical aspects one more time. Let's bring in Armstrong Idachaba. Now, we've heard that, yes, it's a boom season ultimately for content providers, who can key in and sell their products. There are a number of issues that arise, intellectual property, but more significantly, for purposes of this conversation, will be how much of an issue will regulation be once you have the full rollout of the digital switchover, because if a plenitude of content is available and you have a multiplicity of channels, I just say, look, as a parallel with online TV today, what would that mean for the regulatory authorities, and what therefore should the players in the industry watch out for?
Thank you very much, Kingsley, for raising this. For the regulator, of course, it opens up opportunities, and it also opens up challenges. In terms of content regulation, of course, the rules governing the broadcast of content remain the same essentially. Don't forget that this is a DTT proposition, and it doesn't even matter. Any broadcast that is coming into Nigeria that is targeted at Nigerians must, as a fact, necessity of fact, be regulated for the good living of Nigerians. So the NBC is not compromising content standards. We don't expect that because it is DTT, you begin to show X-rated pornographic content or you use indecent language. So the rules basically remain. We ensure that every content emanating on the DTT platform open remains subject, to regulatory mechanics and regulatory interventions as it is. But I also will acknowledge that it also comes up with some levels of challenge. Don't forget where the regulator used to contend with 3-4 numbers of headache, you now have it super multiplied. It means that the regulator must develop the capacity to be able to monitor around the clock well over 60 television channels at the go. So what that means is that we must increase our capacity, for technical monitoring. We may have to use technology to do more monitoring, recording, archiving, reviews, and then interpretation. And that has to go side by side with the eyeball-to-eyeball monitoring that we do. We also expect that Nigerians, availing themselves the opportunity of more content, will also wake up to the responsibility of also conveying to the regulator, observations, monitoring feedback regarding what they monitor. So for the regulator, it's a good time. But what we are more interested in is with the dividends. We would like to see this technological innovation increase participatory capacity for Nigerians in terms of democratic exchange, in terms of viewer experience, in terms of viewer capacity for dialogue and national discourse, in terms of promoting indigenous Nigerian culture, and that we're also promoting peaceful coexistence and harmony of Nigerians, in terms of propagating what the ideals of a civilized Nigerian society will be. For us, those are the imperatives. And also to promote the business, because as we have often said, the economics of broadcasting also remains critically relevant.
How competitive will it be with foreign content?
Again, some people have tried to look at this proposition from a competitive viewpoint. And my take basically is that, like I said, this is a homegrown initiative that has at the center the philosophy of Nigeria. We want to develop what is truly ours. We want to propagate what is truly ours. We want to be able to package Nigerian indigenous content in a way that they are competitive, not necessarily aping what comes from the West. So we want to be strictly innovative on our own. And the way to do this is to build quality, is to build deliverables around this proposition in a very local manner. So we are not going to allow an intrusion of foreign content. We want to be purely homegrown.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Engineer Mana, let's come back again to some of the technical aspects. Is there an infusion of satellite transmission in all of this? I know that you talk about terrestrial. And if so, how much satellite engagement is there, and who are the satellite service providers? I'm asking this question against the background of what we know about NIGECOMSAT. NIGECOMSAT, it's often been said to be heavily under-patronized. So how is this playing out? Are we negotiating with other satellite providers, or we are doing it locally, and is there a fee structure that can impact ultimately on all of this? Because when you will have a program on paper, sometimes this doesn't look very well until you start getting fees from providers, and you said no, 1,500 we no longer do per year. It's now 2,500. After a while, it becomes 5,000. Another time, it becomes
10,000.
Almost. So they will tell you that is the dollar rate. Anyway, but just tell us how much satellite how much satellite intrusion are we going to have, and who is providing the satellite service? Is it NIGECOMSAT, or we are going outside?
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very critical question. There's a lot of satellite input into the DSO. You know, the local stations are scattered all over the country. We have 3 tiers of programming on the DSO. You have the national program, you have the regional, and then the local. National is stations like NTA, AIT channels who are interested in having their transmission nationwide. They'll be present everywhere. Then you have some stations who want to be within their own locality. They don't have the money to pay carriage fee to go national. And then, of course, you have those small stations like within Abuja, for example, who are only interested in just the presence in Abuja. And a lot of those ones are actually going to come up in Lagos, right? So all these stations scattered all over the place. Some can bring their signal to the head end of the signal distributor via cable or via IP or via satellite. Most of them backhaul their signals to the head end of the signal distributor via satellite. Now, the situation at the moment is that SCS, satellite communication services, are the ones being used. But the issue of choice is actually nothing to do with the government of the day. It is the responsibility of the signal distributors to deal with whoever they feel they are comfortable with. Initially, they went to SCS because of certain factors. NIGECOMSAT had some limitations. As at now, you know that they still have just one satellite in orbit. It's only recently they have acquired partnership with other satellite providers in their orbital location who can support them, if anything, if there's any failure on their one satellite. So the decision was taken by the consortium of initially there was a company that was supposed to be aggregating programs from the various stations to the head end of the signal distributors. And the aggregators were the ones who, after looking around, came to the conclusion they are best served by SCS. So SCS is still the satellite signal provider for now.
Is SCS a local firm or?
No, it's not a local firm.
That's a Nigerian branch anyway.
They have a Nigerian branch. They have a hub in Lagos from where all those signals are aggregated before being transmitted out to the signal distributors. So, and in any case, when the white paper signified that the transmission infrastructure of NTA should form one of the signal distributors because of the expansion project in NTA. Second, Pinnacle got their own license by a competitive bidding. Okay, and what then transpired is that CCNL, the aggregator then, now went around, they had discussions with several satellite providers and chose SCS. The other end of it is that, like we said before, if it became critical that a certain percentage of the population cannot be covered by the terrestrial signal, that can be done by satellite, all right? Because satellite can penetrate any hill or valley and all of that one. But again, that population will also need a little bit of support because they now have, apart from buying a set-top box, they have to get satellite dish with all its accessories and so on. So satellite is involved, but more or less as a carriage and then gap filler for a small percentage of the population.
So as the second phase in Lagos kicks off now and the accessibility level is high, when do other states begin to, key into it?
Well, there's a whole rollout timetable that NBC had developed. Phase 1 covers Lagos. From Lagos, we're moving to Kano. Kano to Rivers. And then from Rivers to Gombe and Yobe. So those are the stages in phase 1. After that, we go to phase 2 of the rollout on this second phase.
Yes.
All right. So there's a whole already set out timetable, which we've all mutually agreed on.
Our target is to complete the entire country by the end of 2022.
Okay, before the election.
If it's exactly, in fact, even before the end of 2022, because like what happened to us before, we didn't want a repeat of the 18-19 issue, because 2022 is going to be another election year, and once they get into that, forget about any other thing until the election is won and all that. But there's a critical issue that I also want to mention here, because there's a compelling reason why government, the federal government especially, should support a quick conclusion of the DSO. Now, the main reason of going satellite, going digital from analog broadcasting is for a more efficient use of the broadcast spectrum. Now, when we finish all this rollout, broadcast industry is going to vacate 168 megahertz of spectrum, of very valuable spectrum, the one engineer Friday will call the golden spectrum. This will be sold to the telecom industry for them to deploy their broadband, mobile broadband to the rural areas and other areas of Nigeria. Now, when you look at spectrum cost in a very conservative way, spectrum cost, I think around 2018, was like $14 million per megahertz. All right? When you multiply $14 million by 168, you are looking at over $2.3 billion. That is amount accruing to government as an immediate dividend from the DSO. All right? Now, and this amount is a recurring thing, because if you license a telecom for, I think they are licensed between 15 and 20 years, at the end of the expiration of that license, they have to pay the same license fee again. If not more, because over the years, they already would have set up the basic infrastructure. After the expiration of their license, they have to now pay for the spectrum. And it could be valued a lot more than the initial 14 million. So there's a compelling reason why federal government should be interested in seeing this project through at the shortest possible period.
You say the federal government. That's part of what we're trying to clarify earlier. When the money comes, will the money go into the federal government's coffers?
Of course it does.
Or it will go into the federation account?
What is federation account? What's federal government coffers?
Oh, no. That's Engineer Mana. Yeah, I know that these are legal issues, but there's a huge difference, because the Consolidated Revenue Fund for the federal government is not the same as that for the states or for the entire federation. Local government will come, they will have a right to that money. State governments will come, they will have a right to that money.
It goes to the federation account.
Federation account, yes. So that's the native point. But I think that these are some of the issues that perhaps will clarify. The key thing that you have mentioned is that let's get the rollout done quickly and free up more spectrum for broadcasting. And Mr. Maxwell Loko, I would like you to explain again for our viewers. If there's been talk about the fact that the DSO will enable convergence and data applicability. How is this likely to work out? Because when you say data applicability, does it mean that somebody with a set-top box can now have access to internet? If so, how? There are some TVs you see when you go to when they are marketing, they will tell you that you can do email and all kinds of things on the TV. And the question I often ask them is that if you have other people who are in the room watching with you, is that when you're going to be reading your emails or something? But just tell us, Mr. Maxwell Loko.
Well, you are very correct. But for now, the set-top boxes are what we call the ZAP or the basic set-top boxes. But we are hoping in the very near future that they will come with very flexible features like data compatibility. So your set-top box will not only be a set-top box, but also be a Wi-Fi. So you don't have to get a Wi-Fi separately. So it has the functionality of providing those multiple channels we're talking about. It also has the capability of doing the work that the Wi-Fi will do. So you have it all rolled in one. So you are watching TV, you are also browsing in the internet or doing stuff with the same set-top box. So the value proposition is such that, like Engineer Mana said, if we vacate those spectrum and the telecoms are able to deploy enough data, even those are the rural areas that ordinarily cannot afford or even have access to Wi-Fi, once they have the set-top boxes, they are also on. They have data. They have data to browse and do other things that somebody in Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt can do. So that is what we are looking forward as having data bundled in the same set-top box. And I think the one Mutala also in his tweet made some very vital points, and he was very futuristic about maintenance and sustainability. If we collapse it with the issue of job creation and all that, we now discover that like the set-top box manufacturers are talking about having to get people from the local governments to train them and give them the skills to not only maintain but also to do some other jobs that will be indirect jobs that is related to that. But the long and short of it, like you say, Kingsley, this set-top box is going to be all-encompassing for the viewers at home. You use it to watch TV, you also use it to browse. And the premium version of the set-top box will come ultimately with all those features. So those who want to do data and watch TV can just add a little money and buy those boxes that have those capabilities.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maxwell Loco. He's the Managing Director, NTA TV Enterprises. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Welcome. Thank you.
Engineer Edward Amana, Chairman DG Team. Thank you so much for your input.
Thank you.
Always. Professor Armstrong Idachaba, Acting Director General, National Broadcasting Commission. It's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you very much, Jume.
And from our Lagos studio, we had Tosin Ilosami, Managing Director, RLG Communications Nigeria Limited. Thank you so much for your contributions on the program today. And Sports Update is next.
After winning their first trophy of the season in the League Cup final, Manchester City go into the biggest game of their campaign against Paris Saint-Germain in the semi-finals of the Champions League, carrying a 2-1 advantage into the second leg at the Etihad Stadium as the B2 reach their first Champions League final. With the Premier League title all but secured for the third time in 4 years, the focus for Pep Guardiola and his players will now be fixed on defeating the Stars of PSG, beginning with tonight's second leg in Manchester. The French champions are currently involved in a Ligue 1 title battle with Lille and Monaco, but the prize they have always craved is the Champions League. Both City and PSG dominate domestically, but have never won Europe's biggest prize, ensuring this will be an intense and passionately contested Champions League tie. Guardiola possesses one of the most talented squads in Europe, but is fully aware of the threats posed by Mauricio Pochettino's side. City have no fresh injury concerns. PSG may be without star forward Kylian Mbappe after the World Cup winner missed the French champions 2-1 win over Lens with a calf injury on Saturday, but Guardiola expects the 22-year-old to feature.
Meanwhile, Super Eagles midfielder Moses Simon, who plays for Nantes, has been named in League One Team of the Week by L'Equipe. Simon scored once and recorded an assist in Nantes' 4-1 away win at Brest on Sunday, a result which boosted their hopes of escaping the drop. The former Levante made the selection for the first time in the current campaign. The Nigerian international has now scored 6 goals for the Canaries this season.
Well, that's Good Morning Nigeria today. Tomorrow is another day for another edition. I am Jumo Yusuf.
And I'm Kingsley Osadola. To take care of yourself.